Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday to you. Although I suppose actually it's better than that for you. You should be watching this on a Friday if you tuned in when I posted it. For me, it's Monday. This is Glenn, Red Dog Motorsports. And we are working on Big Bird. Right there. If you were following along in the last video, I was working on exhaust, or preparing to work on exhaust. Switch gears a little bit. We're going to get back to exhaust, but I thought my buddy ordered the drive shaft components. He did not. He thought I was ordering them. Since that's all been resolved, I ordered them this morning. So we're going to be waiting a little bit. I should have them tomorrow. So we'll be back on it by Wednesday. Whatever, I can at least work on the driver or passenger side. But regardless, I digress. We're working on brakes right now, and I've run into a small problem. So this caliper, apparently it had gotten caught and the brake line was removed. The problem that I'm having is none of the hardware was with it. So I've gotten the correct thread pattern and everything, but it is too long. When you thread it in, I don't know if I can get this in there, although it's kind of a pain. Yeah, there we go. But at any rate, you thread this all the way down and you have space. You can't get any crush on it. So we're gonna have to cut down the bolt. You can see here, not gonna work, no bueno. So I'll cut that out. Well, I'm going to measure it. So I'll thread it all the way in there, mark it with a pen. We'll cut out the excess, which shouldn't be that much, about 1/4 inch, a little over, looks like. And then we will get everything threaded in. I am going to need, originally these went through these holes and were held in that place. That system's not working on either side anymore. Both brake lines have been changed from their originals. So I'm going to make a couple of my tabs similar to what I made for that rig. Just a couple of my little bent 16 gauge holders, line holders, whatever you want to call them, clips. So I'll make a couple of those. We'll weld them to the axle, and that'll hold that brake line in place nice and secure and keep everything from moving around. They're easy to make, only take a couple of minutes. Once that's done, brakes will actually be ready to be bled. And we're going to move then to some electrical items. I've already got most everything bolted in that needed to be bolted in. If you watched the last video, we did the shifter, the console cover, and the air cleaner. So hopefully in this video we'll finish out the rest of it. Rest of the electrical, we're almost done with brakes. Exhaust and drive shafts, get them done, and then we can get into starting the motor, airing up the ORIs, and doing a quick test drive after we do some fluid checks. Test drive to make sure she's working. Oh, the dash is the big one. May not get to that one this week. I'm trying to find out when we can get into the other shop with the bender. So that may slow things down, but no big deal. And if not, maybe I'll give it back to my buddy and he can finish it. Probably not. He gets pretty busy. So with that, let's get in here, cut this bolt and get it in there. Probably bring you back in when I'm finishing up the clips and whatnot. And then we're going to jump into some electrical stuff. And yeah, start knocking this thing out. Today's exhaust day. Gonna be working with one of these kits. I bought this off of Amazon. It's non-coated, just mild steel. It is mandrel bent, comes with flared ends. I've used this before, used it on the Red XJ. Seems to me I've used it somewhere else as well. They're not bad. They ain't the greatest. You can get them in a couple of different coatings, aluminized steel, that kind of thing. But these work real well. Comes with all the general bends you need. You can hack and whack it to get it to fit in the rigs usually pretty well. The headers that they bought for this came with these really nice collector adapters, but in this instant they're not going to work. These are nice stainless steel. They've got really thick flanges. They already have the O2 bungs in them. Unfortunately, in both instances, passenger and driver's side, these nice ones won't work. And I'll get underneath and show you, but we're gonna have to switch to, I just bought some cheaper ones. That is because these are shorter. They don't have O2, whoops. So I bought these cheaper ones. They're shorter. They don't have the O2 sensors in them, so I can cut them and then adapt the piping to them, tubing. I'm not sure why they're chromed. That was not something that needed to be done, because that's all got to be cleaned off to weld. And then I bought some O2 sensor bungs we can weld into the tubing. So let's go underneath. I'll show you why we're having this issue. Okay, let's go underneath and I'll show you why we're having these issues, and we need these alternative pieces rather than the nice ones that came with it. So if you look right up there, you can see that header is pointed halfway into the frame. So we're gonna have to put the collector adapter up there and then angle it this way so that we can get past that frame and over into this area right here where my hand is, my fingers. And I couldn't do that with the long one because the long one immediately hit the frame and I didn't want to cut it up. Cutting it up also meant that the O2 sensors would be removed from it and I'd have a big hole, all that good stuff. So that's why we have the other ones. One thing, if you look, I have the other one already up there. This is the other one. I'm going to be removing it. I could use this one, but no reason to waste one good one and then use the other. I'll just switch this one out so that they can be returned to Mike at the shop or whatever and be used elsewhere. But this motor is offset. If you look up here, there is one engine mount, and if you look over here, there's a shorty. This motor is offset to the passenger side to accommodate the really long snout on these Unimog axles. They have a really long pinion on their dropout. I don't know the reasoning behind that long pinion. I just know that that's there. So that does force the engine to sit over quite a bit. And that is why we're dealing with what we're dealing with. But the other thing is, I need to make sure to stay above upper links and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to work on getting this piece cut. I've already gotten it marked. I had it up in there earlier. So we're going to cut it on the line, probably use the grinder to do so. And then we'll get it bolted back up and start welding in tubing. All right, everybody, update. I was going this direction. Now I'm going that direction because that's just the way it goes with me. So I've got the passenger side exhaust is basically in. We've got all of it back. I've got the muffler kind of stabbed in there. But in looking at it, I realized that if I put it in there and just welded it up, I wasn't going to be able to get it in and out without dropping the skid plate, which on this one, the rear links are attached to the skid plate. So it's not just an easy drop it and we can get to everything. So I'm going to add some V-band clamps. Not a really expensive option. You can get them on Amazon. You can get a set for like 30 bucks nowadays. So I got a set of them coming. They'll be here tomorrow and we'll get them welded to the mufflers and we'll finish getting all of the darn it, I'm drawing a blank here, the hangers on it, and that'll finish that out. And then we got the O2 sensor bungs to put in it. So I went to move to the driver's side, start working on it, and my drive shaft stuff came in, which is good because I really would like to have the front drive shaft in there so that when I route the driver's side exhaust out and around, we can make sure that we're avoiding the drive shaft. I'm not going to have conflicts. So that's what I'm working on now. So I've already cut the new tubing. I've got the new 1350 end on it. I've got the old spline and everything cut off. So now what I'm going to do is get my tape measures, and I'm using the square over here. Actually going to use the square, and we're going to go and start rotating this around and making sure that all of this is level and true to each other so we're not wobbling up and down. Once I have that, we'll start tacking it. We'll confirm. Once I got 4 tacks, 90 degrees from each other, then we'll weld it. I usually weld a quarter, turn it to 180, weld a quarter, turn it 90, weld it, turn it 180, weld it. That kind of thing. Since I really don't have a way at the moment to spin this full 360. I can do it by hand, but I just never, it just tends to be easier to do it the other way. So that's what we're doing. Let me get this knocked out. I got to get the big welder out. We got to get it all set up. Takes me a minute to get all this, it just takes a little fine tuning, but I've done it a lot of times this way. I mean, the rat rod runs down the road at 70, 75 miles an hour. And so far that drive shaft's holding together fine. The ones in my buggy, they're good to go. I've got more than a few others that are running around out there in the world that are holding up doing it this way. Well, that doesn't mean I won't eventually run into problems and have one that's out of balance or something. I would like to take the one that's in the rat rod in and drop it off and see if they balance it and see what they tell me. How close did I get? Do they tell me it has to be redone and it's completely out of whack, or did they just balance it and give it back to me? That'd be interesting. I don't know what they'd charge for that, but I don't have a way to spin them up to balance them. So, all right, at any rate, let's get on this and get moving. All right, drive shaft's in. Of course, it causes problems. So let's go under and take a look. I didn't realize this when I put it in. We got a conflict with our shifter. So not so much here, but here. Right now everything's a full bump, so when this comes down, it's gonna hit. Now I can turn it. This is how the instructions say to put it in. Now I can flip it. When I do though, it changes the angle of this. And then we got to do some stuff to shorten and whatnot to get this to line back up where it's supposed to. So it's going to involve the normal routine of taking off all of the work I did up top to get that in a proper location to make this fit, and readjusting the cable. So it's all good. Just a little bit of a pain in the butt. I'm a little concerned too that we're going to hit here. I haven't verified it. We shouldn't. This should all be the same basic diameter, but it looks awfully close to this. Now it can clear with an 1/8 inch. That's fine. Yeah, that looks close. Probably jack it up and rotate the wheels and see what we get. All right, my fears are unfounded. We got plenty of room. Got at least a 1/4 inch in there. So no worries. We're good to go there. And that really shouldn't change. As this drops down, that angle's gonna get, this will actually move a little bit back. So it shouldn't hit at all. Shouldn't have any issues there. Good to go. All right. What was, what is, and what will be. It's that time. So, been working on driver's side exhaust. Got O2 bung welded in. Got all the parts and pieces. The muffler's going to connect back here, but I am waiting on the V-bands to come in because I need V-bands connect to the muffler, because if I have all of it connected together, there's no way to get it in and out. As I explained before, with regards to the dropping the pan or the skid plate and all that good stuff. Little welder did fine. Not super happy with my welding. I did good and bad. I don't know. I always struggle with my consistency. It is what it is. I just keep trying to improve. But at this point, once that cools down a little bit, I can stick it back in there. The V-band should be here today. I don't know, Amazon's always kind of hit or miss with their timing. So they'll show up. When they show up, I should also get the remaining components for the rear drive shaft and whatnot. So that will complete the drive shafts and the exhaust today, hopefully. I do need hangers and I need a U-joint. So I'm probably going to do a run up to the auto parts store. We'll get the 1310 U-joint. We'll get some hangers off the shelf, and that'll let us complete everything back here. As I showed you earlier, I need to redo the shifter linkage because it's hitting the front drive shaft, and I didn't realize that was going to be a problem when I put it all together. Of course, I can't get the bolt off the shaft because the drive shaft's in the way, so I got to jack the vehicle up. So we'll probably get that done and bring you back when I got a little bit more to show you. All right, let's get to it. All right, guys, so I'm getting ready to pre-oil the motor, engine, in preparation for trying to get it to fire off. If you've never done this on an LS, it's not too hard at all. If you look, it's kind of hard to see in the light, but there's this fitting right there, my finger's at, and you can see there's a bulge in the casting. It runs all the way down through the block, and then it turns and goes down. You find that one, that fitting, if you take it out, leads right into one of the oil galleys. And you buy one of these fittings off of Amazon or Summit or Speedway or one of those guys, and it threads into that. I think it's an M16 1-1 or ×1 thread pattern. And then you buy a nipple fitting like this one, and that screws into the end of it. And then you get yourself a 2-gallon sprayer, and basically all you do is you put that fitting into that where you pull the block off out. You thread this in there, you thread your hose to it, then you pump up the sprayer. It takes a little bit. It can be about 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to get oil all the way up. On this one, I'm gonna have to just kind of listen for it. I'm not taking the heads all the way apart. And I will crank the motor over a couple of revolutions while I'm doing it. But if it's quiet, you can actually hear the oil a lot of times, the air popping as it goes up into the tops of the heads and whatnot. But the way these work is they go top to bottom. So I'm gonna thread all this in there, get it all set up. I'll show you it again one more time before we start pumping, and then we'll start pumping it up, see what we get. All right, we're all set up. I've got it priming right now. But you can see, and there's the sprayer. Hose goes up, all the way up, oops, sorry, into here, right there. And it's just got that fitting in there, coming out into the hose and back down. You just pump it up, let it sit. Like I said, crank the motor over a couple of times with by the crank pulley, and good to go. You can't hear it, I can. You can hear little pops and ticks in the top as oil gets up there and forces the air bubbles out. It's real faint, it's not loud, but if you're listening for it, you can hear it. Either that or I'm hearing things. But at any rate, all right, I'm gonna finish this up and then have after that, exciting times. We'll look to hit the buttons and see if stuff starts spinning and whirling and all that good stuff. All right, guys. I got the battery connected. Didn't start any fires. So that's a good sign. When we flip this switch, it turns red. I believe I don't hear the fuel pump. I think I hear it when I kick that switch on, but it should only prime for a second, and then it should shut back off. We are in park. No rear drive shaft in it. So let's see if she bumps over. I'm gonna set you guys down so I can have two hands. Let's see what this does. Anything? We get anything? Oh, we got crankies. I don't hear fuel. All right, we're gonna give it a couple more shots, but I don't think we're getting fuel. All right, let's start verifying stuff. So I'm gonna check the fuel rails for pressure, see if we got fuel up there, and then after that we'll have to start checking for spark. All right, I got it figured out. So this system uses an aux beam switch panel. The head unit wasn't connected, thus nothing was turning on through the aux beam. Right now I've got the power on, and I did figure out the fuel pump, which, by the way, much noisier than I would have thought. Mine's nowhere near this noisy, but check this out. Oops. See that? That might be a problem. So we're gonna have to take that line apart and fix it. I don't know what's wrong with it. I'm guessing just the fitting's not on there correctly. So let's see if we can fix that, and then we'll give her another shot. All right, so I haven't had much luck fixing this line. So I'm gonna do something that I probably shouldn't do, but I've been trying to cut it. It's a steel braided line. I've been trying to cut it with some shears and some hacksaws and all of that to avoid sparks, since it is a fuel line. Haven't had any luck. So what ends up happening is when you try to put the fitting together, it's just pushing everything right back out and not pulling it in and tightening it up like it's supposed to. So I have taped it up, and now I'm going to try and cut it with the grinder like I normally do, because unfortunately this thing is on the vehicle, and I have to completely remove the entire line to take it out from the vehicle. So we're gonna try this. Hopefully it doesn't explode anything. It shouldn't, right? If not, you guys will be first to know. Look at that. We live. That's enough to make you nervous. All right, let's see if we can get this thing to go in there correctly now. You guys have seen me do this a bunch. I've made a ton of lines on this channel. Typically though, when I make them, I take them out of the vehicle and I make them over on the vise. I don't usually make them down here on the vehicle, which is, there's nothing wrong with doing. You can do that, assuming you can get your tape to come off. You know, when I want tape to stick, it won't. And when I don't want it to stick, it will. All right, see, that's pretty clean. Now we can just slide this on there, hopefully. All right, the ferrule is reverse threaded. Get it like so. That's looking pretty darn good. Where'd the lube go? I had a little bit of lubricant. Here it is. All right. Now, let's see if we can get this piece to slide in there. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Maybe this will work. A little concerned I shouldn't really be able to do it by hand. Now we're getting tight. All right, well, hopefully this does it. If not, then either my fitting is bad or the line and fitting are the wrong size in relation to each other, which would suck because that means that I have to order all new line. All right, let's put this on the vehicle, see what we get. Y'all ready? You watching? Let's see, which one was it? Not that one, that one. No leaks. All right, that's a good sign. All right, let's give her a shot. Fuel pump's on. You guys might be able to hear that. Cranking. All right, fuel pump is off. Why is the fuel pump turning off when I hit the start button? That's a good question. All right. Nope, everything turns off on the aux beam. When I turn that on, I wonder what that clicking sound is. See, there's the fan. But then you hit start and everything shuts off. I'm gonna have to figure that out. Bummer. Okay, so I didn't see anything that is like jumping out saying, hey, this is a problem. Everything appears that it's wired correctly. Obviously it's not, but there's nothing that says, hey, this is a problem. The one thing I did see is that the starter switch is drawing power from the lug that goes into the aux beam system, which is the switch controller that's wired into this vehicle. And the only thing I can think of is that for some reason the solenoid is drawing enough voltage or amperage to cause the switches to trip and go into a safety mode or something and kick off. So what I've done is I've temporarily removed that power wire from the starter switch and just connected it directly to the positive of the battery. I wouldn't have thought it would matter because it was connected to the power lug going into the aux beam switch. So we're going to give that a shot. So let's see if this is failure number 4 or not. Who knows? We're going to keep tracking it down until we get it. It's just what we do. All right, turning things on. Master power. I'm gonna leave the fans off for now. Let's see. Fuel pump and whatever clicks in the motor. I got them on. Here goes our starter. Nope, everything shuts off again. I'll have to figure that out. There's a relay or something that when you hit the starter, it's getting turned off. I don't understand why. It doesn't turn the aux beam itself off. All the lights of that still remain on. All it's doing is turning this. Man, when this camera says it's low battery, it means it's low battery. Like right now, shutting down. Woo! I don't know if it's my batteries or the fact this thing was dropped in the water and got water in it. I mean, that couldn't be it. But at any rate, the aux system, I mean, see right here? It's on. You turn, there's the fuel pump. But as soon as I hit the key, the red light goes out, fuel pump turns off, and nothing. So I don't know. We'll have to figure this out. So let me look deeper into it, see if we can figure out what's causing. I don't know where the circuits on the aux beam go, really. So I need to verify that first. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna track that down, see if we can figure out where all of that's going. And okay, let's give it attempt number 5. So what I did, took a look at the aux beam instructions. Imagine that. And it showed that the circuit breaker had a specific, they wanted power in and power out a specific way. So I switched that because it was wrong. It was backwards. So I haven't tried it yet, but let's give her a shot, see what she does. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing. We're going to master power on, fuel pump on. Now this is just gonna test if we turn off. Yeah, as soon as I hit the key, it turns off. Oh, this is frustrating. All right, let's continue chasing things down. All right, in an act of desperation, I put the jump box on it. I had my meter on it. It was only going down to 10.5 when it was cranking, but maybe that's enough to kick the aux system out. I don't know, we'll find out. Oh, my starter switch isn't connected. Dang it. All right, attempt like 1258. Nope, it's just kicking off. Oh, this is just frustrating. I don't know, it just, there's no reason. No, none. Oh! All right, I've got the jump box running the aux beam, which runs the fuel pump, or just a switch that turns them on. Let's see if this does anything. Oh, see, now it's working. Come on, baby. I know what the problem is. Hold on. All right, attempt number 1285. We're still running off the jump box to the aux beam system. I had the MAF sensor disconnected. Let's see if that helps it start. Fuel pump, power up to the front. She's trying. Acts like it's not shutting the fuel pump off, so they can't be. Could be the vats. All right, going to get my computer. Good morning, everybody. So when I left you, we were pretty frustrated. We'd had a lot of issues. The vehicle wouldn't start, wouldn't run, that kind of thing. I got into the computer with HP Tuners. Looks like the VATS was still on. vehicle anti-theft system. That being the case, it will try to fire, but then when the computer realizes and looks for the key, all of that good stuff doesn't find it, it shuts the vehicle back off. So I had been told that the VATS was off, probably just over the time that the vehicle was here. It needed to be turned off, but hadn't been done. No big deal. I believe we've done it. I'm going to try it and we shall see. So power's on, fuel pump's on. We're in park. Let's hit the key. It runs. Don't run the greatest at the moment. Kind of rough sounding. No pedal. So I got to figure that out. All right, but she runs. Now, I do need to figure some stuff out, obviously. We've got the pedal issue to figure out. I've got the dash. We bent it up this weekend. So the dash is here. Drive shaft is here. We've got to finish up the wiring. So I am behind schedule. I should have been finishing this already, but it's going to go into a third week. Most of that's my fault. I've been slacking. I have not been working at a very high rate of speed. No real reason other than just being lazy. But I do need to step things up. I've got vehicles stacking up that need to get in the shop and get back out, so people can be driving them, having some fun. So, at this point, I'm going to wrap up this week's video. We've had success. We've got exhaust done. The vehicle runs. Front drive shaft is built. Next week, we're going to finish up. We're going to get this thing knocked out and get it out of here. Only part we're waiting on is the gauges, and they should be here sometime this week. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching. All the new subscribers. Just in the last couple of weeks, we've had 30 of you sign up. Really appreciate it. And we're looking to bring you a lot of great content. So stay tuned. We'll catch you soon on the next one.